a map of Alabama showing all the education districts in the state.
He spoke exclusively to News 5's Emily DeVoe.
Alabama's going to play a critical role in the presidential election this year.
These 8 Mile residents are not happy with how they feel that the spill has been handled as far as investigations go. You can see behind me there are dozens of them, and they've got signs that say Mercaptan is toxic. Her father actually lives right over there. It'll look like this when they launch it into the water for testing. When the creek was redesigned in the 50s, Mobile was obviously a lot smaller. You didn't have the businesses or the houses or the parking lots you have today.
If you look at the tons of asphalt being poured into these road projects, it weighs more than 1 billion moon pies.
Learning how to do the dam.
I don't know why I just went through here.
With your friendly tax day reminder.
Emily, are you sure you know how to cook all of this stuff?
With my toes in the sand.
I'm not scared of any snakes.
Just trying to stay dry.
I'm Emily DeVoe, News 5.
And now to a story you will see only on News 5. A Mobile County teacher is not allowed in the classroom for what she's accused of doing to one of her students, whipping him with an extension cord. As News 5's Emily DeVoe reports, the parents of the 3rd grader say the school system's investigation is not enough. They're getting the police involved.
A day before Collins Road Elementary lets out for summer,
Cole tried to hug her one time. She pushed him away with both hands.
one father is facing a nightmare no parent ever wants to go through.
There should never be a teacher that hurts a child and is allowed to get away with it, period.
Troy Forrester couldn't believe it when his 3rd grade son came home from school a couple weeks ago, claiming his teacher whipped him with an extension cord.
I was, as any parent, wants to trust the teachers.
Troy says his son has ADHD.
As you notice, he's in the very back of the class.
And the teacher would often send home pictures showing his desk in the back of the classroom away from the other students.
We would see this here, and then he would get in trouble when he got home. This picture here particularly upsets me because he told me that once she put him on top of this, that's where he had to keep his feet.
Troy says he never heard anything from the school or the teacher about the extension cord incident until she was already placed on leave.
Why should we be kept in the dark as parents?
Superintendent Martha Peak says the school system has a strict no corporal punishment policy, and they're looking into it.
There were reports, and certainly we're investigating the situation. As is our usual with any type of personnel item, we don't make any comment.
As for Troy and his son, he says that's not good enough, and they called Pritchard Police to pursue criminal charges as well, in hopes no other family will go through something like this ever again.
With red snapper season just a few months away, the Marine Enforcement Division is taking an unusual approach to catch people hiding illegal fish. As News 5's Emily DeVoe reports, they've spent the last 2 months training dogs to sniff out contraband. She has a story you'll only see right here on News 5.
Hey, check here. Check here. Morgan isn't your typical conservation enforcement officer.
I just started asking the question, could we put a dog to use to do this? And in my research, the answer was most likely yes.
She's one of 2 spaniels Scott Bannon says they trained to sniff out hidden red snapper and other fish.
It's just like a narcotics dog. When people wrap it with grease or duct tape or coffee grounds, these dogs have that same ability to go through those multiple layers.
To show me how it works, they take a bag filled with fillets.
We try to do it so that it would be the most real-life scenario.
Then Officer Lena Phillips hides it under a bench in the boat's cabin, and she grabs Morgan to get to work.
At first, people think that we're going to pull out, Belgian Malinois or a German Shepherd, and you see their face light up when they see one of the Spaniels.
Our goal is to not hold people up for very long, and we don't want to go through every person's boat and inconvenience them. The dogs speed that system up immensely.
After just a minute or 2, Morgan finds the source of the fillets and sits down.
That's it. Yeah, good girl.
That's how she shows Lena she found it.
They were never rewarded for just saying, I smell the product somewhere here. You need to look further. The dog has to go identify the source of the scent.
The canine unit will naturally face some criticism from fishermen when word spreads.
The dogs are not a secret weapon. We want people to know that we have the dogs and what their capabilities are, because we understand that people are not excited about the short seasons and the lower bag limits, so we want to deter the illegal behavior ahead of time.
Check here.
Officers have to check the boats anyway and say the dogs will at least speed that process up.
The dogs speed that system up immensely.
With training under her paws, Morgan is ready for a busy snapper season. In Dolphin Island, Emily DeVoe, News 5.
From the road, it's not much to look at, but this is where the Oslava Creek we know today starts. It's a drainage ditch behind Dreamland Barbecue. Just like this water will eventually find its way to Dog River, so will we, and we have everything we need for the trip.
One down.
What else do you need there, adventurer?
I need my Mountain Dew.
No need for the kayaks yet, but if we're going to travel
Careful on those rocks.
every inch of this creek, we'll want them eventually. Just look at how high the man-made rock retainer wall is on either side. This is designed to hold a lot of water. But in this stretch, it's just muck, so we'll have to drag the kayaks.
Ah, look at this.
What you won't find.
Honda hubcap.
Probably from a wreck.
Figured we can put our cool stuff in.
We're down here, we might as well.
First treasure.
On we go.
Trash shouldn't come as any
You
surprise.
said you forgot your flashlight?
Oh, I'm
There
adding
we
this
go.
to the bag. Flashlight.
It's the one thing nearly everyone thinks about
We're off to a good collection.
when you mention Oslava Creek. What you don't realize, unless you trudge through the muck yourself, is how many creatures live down here.
I'm amazed that there are all these little minnows.
Hopefully we don't need the snake bite kit.
Sure, we know it's only a matter of time before we see at least one,
Oh boy.
but I don't do snakes.
Oh, snake! A snake!
Obviously.
Yeah, there is.
really
So stay back.
We haven't even gone like 2 football fields and there's already a snake.
Well, I mean, it's wild. I mean, and it's wet.
All right.
So we're going to see wildlife.
It doesn't take long
There's another snake in here.
before we get to a spot we think we might actually be able to kayak. If you didn't know any better, you'd think we were in the middle of the wilderness somewhere.
Oh gosh, this is where the snakes are.
But News 5's drone pilot, Jim Johnson, pops that illusion right away. We're still by the interstate, which you can see off to the left.
It's getting very, very soft through here.
From the sky, you can really see how overgrown it is. It takes us more than 20 minutes just to drag the kayaks a short ways to Woodwork Street, where we can finally take them out.
From here, we're about halfway between Old Shell and Dolphin Street, and we can't go any further.
And that's where we'll use our drone.
You can see why we can't walk this stretch. The plants reach the top of the bank on either side. Remember, this is supposed to manage stormwater, and yet you can't even see the bottom.
Removing these plants would do nothing to control flooding.
Botanical Gardens Director Bill Finch tells a very different story about the Oslava Creek we see today.
This isn't how Oslava Creek used to be. I can sort of read, looking at some of the plants here, I can sort of imagine some of the ways it used to be. Look, there's a beautiful plant, we call it thalia. I think that used to be in abundance in Oslava Creek. So what was Oslava Creek? It really drained this big thing called Rag Swamp.
Old maps show Rag Swamp spanned thousands of acres in the middle of Mobile, and Oslava Creek originally reached as far west as Grelot Road.
And it was a great creek. It was an immense creek.
But in the 1950s, when the city drained the swamp to build a shopping mall, they turned the creek into what it is today, a glorified drainage ditch.
The trouble is, it's an old lake bed. It's already so low, it can't channel any more water to Mobile Bay. It's already nearly as low as Mobile Bay now. If you cleaned it out, it wouldn't make much difference. It's not going to make any significant difference because the water is coming from so many different places and it overwhelms the whole area.
Since the creek we have now was engineered decades ago, we're left figuring out what to do with it. Because as Mobile continues to grow, the burden on this stretch of water gets worse every year.
When the creek was redesigned in the 50s, Mobile was obviously a lot smaller. You didn't have the businesses or the houses or the parking lots you have today, so there were more areas for the stormwater and the rainwater to absorb into the ground, whereas now it just runs off the hot pavement directly into the creek, causing all sorts of problems. We've had people who work along this creek say they have a problem with flooding, but as you heard Bill Finch say, he doesn't think that removing the plants would make that much of a difference because the water level is already so low. But removing the trash, well, that's a different story. And tomorrow night, we really get to experience just how big a problem that is firsthand as we make our way down Dolphin Street by all the fast food restaurants there and eventually to the mall. And it's not pretty, but there is some light at the end of the tunnel. We have Casey Calloway from Mobile Baykeeper, an environmental group, who comes to talk to us about one solution that you or me or really anyone could do to help kind of reverse the problem and help reclaim Eslava Creek. So I hope you join us tomorrow night for the second leg of our journey. In Mobile, Emily DeVoe, News 5.